Good morning, guys. We are on episode 2 of the Galapagos Islands, and we're on Floriana Island today. This is Post Office Bay because there's like a barrel that you can leave your postcards in, and then somebody will pick one up and hand deliver it. And you're supposed to look through them for someone from your address, pick it up, and hand deliver it. It's a cool idea, and I don't think anybody's ever going to Rocky Mountain House, Alberta, Canada from there. So I don't think I'm gonna leave a postcard, but we're gonna explore a little bit here, and then we're snorkeling today, and then on another beach for sunset. So should be a good one. We picked up a postcard for Scottsdale, Arizona. We'll deliver that at Christmas. Didn't drop anything off. I trust regular mail much more. We are snorkeling now, but I forgot my micro SD card, so there's gonna be no footage of it, but we have seen turtles and stingrays just on the beach, so if there was footage, it probably would have came out cool.
Okay, turns out there is some footage. Shout out to my man Lars for the cool footage of the sea turtles. They were unreal. Curiously, these coffee table sized water dinosaurs floated around us for nearly an hour before we had to head back to the ship.
Oh man, we're having, oh yeah, it's bright. We're having such a good time here on the islands, on Floriana Island. We just went snorkeling in a place called the Devil's Crown, which has actually been closed to snorkelers for like over 10 years, just because it was getting a little bit worn out from so many boats there, but our boat has a permit to go there. And it was the best snorkeling I've ever done. There was more fish than water in some places. My GoPro decided not to work as soon as we got in the water. So all the footage that I'm about to show you from this snorkel is just stolen from the other participants here on this trip. So thanks to those guys for supplying that footage. After I'm done showing you that footage, we're heading there back to the island to do a little bit more exploring.
Here's something about Morten Hilmer you don't know. He's a fish. Sure, you might know him more for his Arctic wanderings, but he's a merman. There were definitely times he was down underwater for longer than any human's supposed to be there. He was one with the fish. And in the afternoon, we coaxed Martin out of the water and back to land. For now.
I said the other day that in wildlife photography, if you're comfortable where you're standing, you're probably not taking the best picture you could. It's the same for landscape photography. I'm in the most disgusting mud I've ever been in. It smells like sulfur, but it is a really cool landscape. There's all sorts of cracked earth, almost like Dead Valley, and then a peak behind us. Unfortunately, it's like 4 in the afternoon and the light's not great and it's blue skies, but I still took a couple of like quick little photos of it. Right as I was about to go, pink flamingo just flew down within photography range, and I got a photo I quite like. One of the things I'm really trying to do on this trip to the Galapagos is trying to do more environmental portraits of the wildlife, which kind of means getting the animal with its environment around it. I think it's so important to show where the animal lives just as much as it is to show the actual animal. So trying to do that a little bit more, and I think that photo kind of worked.
We wandered back to the beach of the island, again looking for birds in the trees and sea turtles in the shallows. We eventually found pelicans at sunset. I managed to get a couple images I really liked. And Morten managed again to prove why he's the pro and I'm the amateur.
We're ending our day on the beach right at sunset. You can only be on the Galapagos Islands until sunset exactly. It's sunset exactly in a minute. But we're ending our day taking photos of these pelicans on the water. And it's quite hilarious because every single time I'm taking pictures, I feel like I'm in an uncomfortable position. And then I look around to try to find Morten, and he's somewhere definitely more uncomfortable. Right now, he's in the water, armpit deep, right next to the pelicans. The pelicans are just swooping right over his head, and his shirt is soaked to his neck, and he's just standing there hand holding his 600mm lens. What's going on, guys? I'm here in the future, as I often do on this channel, and I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, today was a water day in the Galapagos Islands, and I really should have planned for it and had underwater housing or some underwater system and done a video on underwater photography. I got good images today, but I think it would have been a better video if I would have done something like that. So sorry I didn't plan for that. Anyway, but the main thing I want to talk about right now is Morten Hilmer, and something I stole from Morten, or I should say I learned from Morten. One of the things I love about running these photography tours that I run is I learn a lot as well. I go out in the field with professionals that specialize in something. So when I do a landscape photography trip, I'm with Thomas Heaton. If I'm doing a street photography trip like our one in Morocco, I bring along a street photographer like Joe Allen. And yes, there's actually spaces available on that Morocco trip in March. Link in the description if you want to join us. And then, of course, on the wildlife photography trips, I try to bring a wildlife photographer like Morten Hilmer. And when you do that, you learn a lot from them. In general, as a photographer, you learn the most just being in the field with other photographers. Not even just professionals, just any photographer. Being in a field with a photographer, you learn things. And I want to share with you one of the things I learned from Morten Hilmer on this trip to Ecuador, and that's a Lightroom workflow processing, I guess, hack. I wouldn't even call it a hack, it's just a way to process your workflow. You might remember that I did a video recently about my Lightroom workflow, and there's a link up here. I tend to go through my images linearly, like chronologically, unlike Instagram, and it's okay to work like that because as a travel photographer, you might only take 30 to 50 images a day. As a landscape photographer, you might only take 10 to 20 images a day. As a wildlife photographer, if things are going good, you might take 500 to 1,000 images in a day. So you can't have that same workflow or else it'll take you ages, and you'll waste so much time editing and working on bad images or just not great images. So I want to walk you through what Morten did, and it's a process that I'm going to move forward with myself whenever I do wildlife photography, and potentially when I do travel photography as well, because I think it's really clever. I've modified it a little bit and I'll talk about that at the end, but I want to talk about what he does because it's clever. So let's say Morten goes out and shoots 500 images in a day. He'll go out and shoot those images, imports them all into Lightroom. He'll have those 500 in his library. And then he's going to go through one pass of those images. He's going to have his finger on two buttons, the right key and the one key. And for every image, he's not allowed to look at it for more than a second. And in that second, he's got to decide, one, that image stands out and I want to look at it more, or it's so-so, and he hits the right key. So he'll go through all of his images. Let's say he has 600 images because it's easier for math in my head. If he has 600 images and he's doing this and he's not letting himself have more than a second per image, it shouldn't take him more than 10 minutes to go through all of his images. Of those images, he might end up with like, I don't know, 60 that he's hit the number one key on that really stood out to him. So then he does a second pass. So he goes into the develop module, he chooses the rated button, and he only looks at images that he's starred 1 star and above. And at this point, it's only 1 star. Then he goes back and he does a second pass. In this second pass, he allows himself 5 seconds. He allows himself the option of zooming in to look for sharpness, and he allows himself the option of going back and forth. Because what tends to happen is when you're pressing 1 on all the images, you're gonna find like a set you really like a sequence of 3 or 4, and so he might have 4 images that are almost identical. He's gonna then choose, you know, one of those images that he really loves. So in the second pass, you're looking for the best of the best. All the ones you've pressed 1, you then narrow it down farther. So you might now have, instead of 60 images, you might have 20 images. Then he'll go through those 20 images, and I can't remember what he does. But when he goes through those 20 images, he'll then probably try to do a third pass and maybe narrow it down to 10 images. And then those 10 images he has left, that's what he works on. He keywords those 10 images, he edits those 10 images, and then it's all done. The reality of wildlife photography is if you take 600 images, it's pointless to work on 600 images when 10 of them are going to be the best of the best. The thing that he does though, or the thing that he doesn't do, is he doesn't delete anything. Because when you go through images that quick, there might be some gems in the 1s or in the 2s or even in the 0s. And since data is quite cheap these days, or hard drive space is quite cheap these days, it doesn't make sense to delete them. I have taken this exact same technique, except I've done it in a slightly different way. I have my finger on 3 buttons at the very start. 1, the right key, and X. And the reason I X is because there's always images that are just brutal. There's always images that are just totally out of focus or of nothing. And I just want those files off my computer so they're not taking up space and making it harder for me to go through my images. So I do the same pass. I do the same pass at 2 as well. And then when I get to 2, I edit everything. And then while I'm editing the images that are 2s, I assign some of them 3s. 3 to me means share worthy. So then later when I'm publishing a YouTube video or getting ready to post something on Instagram, I can just select 3 stars and better, and I can just choose to share those images. Those are the best of the best. And then on another video in the future, maybe 2 episodes from now, I think, I'm going to talk about what I use the 4 and 5 stars for on Lightroom. So, woo! I just about got hit with a golf ball. Oh my god. Holy sh**. When your parents live next to a golf course, sometimes the golf balls hit you. Well, that was really close. I actually don't know where the ball ended up. But yeah. Sorry about that little bit of a jump. And I think I was done the video, essentially. But if I wasn't, I don't know where I was. So I'm going to end this video now. On the next episode, which will be, I don't know what day it is, on Thursday, I went to a place called Suarez Point. And it is the most wildlife heavy location anywhere on the Galapagos Islands. And I tried to photograph as many animals as I could in a 3-hour period. And I think it was like 30 images. So the adrenaline's up a bit. So I'm gonna end this video. But I'll see you guys on the next one. It should be fun. Lots and lots and lots of photos on the next one. I promise you. I'll see you there. Peace.